I had Logan Paul on my podcast.
Would Logan do it with me?
Logan would kick your ass, I think.
You're riding a fucking fantastic wave. How could you not make some mistakes along the way?
How can you be for small government and then have the government dictate all
Thank
these things
you.
in your personal life, right?
Exactly.
You idiots. You got it completely wrong.
Can't you just wake up and fucking stop?
I was walking down the hallway like a darted bull with a needle sticking out of my ass.
Tell me the 5 steps to the gain to the point where someone like you would say, I want this guy in my life. I want to help this guy. Hey, Jordan Belfort here, the Wolf of Wall Street, and I am in the new, vastly improved Wolf's Den, where from this point forward, you'll be able to join me once each week as opposed to twice each week in the old original Wolf's Den, which, by the way, was still totally awesome, had some amazing guests, some magic moments, but as you're about to find out, this new improved version will be infinitely more awesome, and it's being launched right now, today, because from this point forward, you'll be able to get anything and everything you could ever possibly want in a success-oriented, sales-oriented, entrepreneurship-oriented, and of course, laugh out loud, funny, and totally irreverent at times podcast from yours truly, the real Wolf of Wall Street, as opposed to this guy, imitator, or this guy, or this ridiculous-looking guy, or this interesting couple, the Wolf of Baby Street, or this other wild couple, or this batshit crazy group of people, or that batshit group of crazy people, right? And last but not least, of course, even this awesome guy, my silver screen alter ego, Leonardo DiCaprio, who played me to near perfection in what's probably become the single biggest cult in all-time movie history, The Wolf of Wall Street. So, to cut to the chase here, what is so different about this new and vastly improved version of the Wolf's Den? Well, for starters, it's got a lot more of me. Sound like Iron Man here, Tony Stark here, right? But it's got a lot more of me. See, here's the deal. Last year was my first year podcasting, about 4 months worth, and it was an experiment. I wanted to see what worked, what didn't work, what people loved, what they didn't love as much, and I found a couple of distinctive trends. Number one, every time I asked people for comments, they would say either A, get on one of these very select group of high, really impact guests, very difficult to get. That was one major comment. And the other one was, we'd really like you to speak more. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear your stories. We want some sales training. We want business advice. We want to know what's going on with the world. We want a voice of reason out there. And believe it or not, I actually am a voice of reason in my old age here, right? So here's the deal. I'm taking this to heart. And I believe, and this is a big lesson here for anybody here who's in business or simply in life, is that when you take actions, you always have to be seeing what's happening, analyzing your result, and then pivoting, changing your approach based on what you see. And if you want to know what people want from you, listen to them. And overwhelmingly what people want from me is they want to hear about my life, my opinions, my training, along with the most amazing guests of all. And I did have some, I admit it, I had some guests that probably were not as good as they should have been because I was experimenting, seeing, who really would work on a podcast and who wouldn't. One thing I did notice was interesting. I would go on someone's podcast and I'd be their number one episode. They'd come on my podcast and the episode would just do okay. And that really crystallized the whole point here, which is that I think people find the things I have to say very interesting. They want to hear stories. They want to be empowered. They want to have a place to go once each week, and I can't do it more than that. Once each week, you can predictably get the information you need to live an awesome life, to feel good, be up on the latest things, and that, as they say, is that. So, without further ado, let me get started. And I want to start by giving you what I believe to be is one of the most valuable skill sets of all that I can transfer to you. And that is the ability to tell an amazing story. This is sort of a byproduct of influence and persuasion, but it's really communication. How do you get your point across to people? How do you tell an awesome story that connects with people, that keeps them hanging on your every word, and that makes them want to be around you? The question really is this: do you know how to tell a story? Or when you start to tell a story, people say, oh my God, what a stone cold fucking bore. This person is so not interesting. Just let me get out of here. Who are you? Are you the person that could tell a story, or do people start to fall asleep or run for the hills when you start to tell a story? Well, guess what? I am, and I say this humbly, but I am one of the world's great storytellers, both in writing and verbally, especially verbally, right? And what I've done over the years is I've turned that into an actual skill set that I can essentially install and you transfer to you by giving it to you in very specific steps. So I have these steps I've created that will allow me to essentially show you what I've been doing so well, so now you can do it too. And of course, the best way to do that is to actually tell you a story. All right, another one of my favorite sponsors. I'm going to be more somber here. We're about mental health we're talking here, right? Name of the company is BetterHelp.com. Now, let me explain to you what BetterHelp is. BetterHelp is basically cracked the code for delivering mental health care for depression, anxiety, anger management, for breakups, just people that are feeling down, you want someone to talk to. They have thousands of licensed professionals that will help you through these times. It's all done on the phone or through Skype, even through text. And if you don't like the person that you get originally, you could always get someone else to replace that person, okay? To me, the best investments you make are the ones that you invest in yourself. This is the ultimate investment in yourself, in your happiness, your sense of well-being, and your sense of just feeling good as you move through life. So if you're feeling a bit down, even if you just know that you could just want someone to talk to and vent to, why not do the professional? Here's the deal. I'll give you the statistics here, or the offer, right? Okay, you're going to get an additional 10% off your entire first month by entering the discount code WOLF. Okay, so get started today at betterhelp.com/wolf. You simply fill out the question to help them assess your needs, and they'll get you the right counselor. Again, betterhelp.com/wolf. 3,000 licensed professionals in all 50 states. I gotta tell you, this is a must. It really is a must. Why not invest in yourself and your own mental health? All right, guys, real quick, a message from one of my favorite sponsors, Oracle. Listen, Oracle NetSuite. If you don't know your numbers as a business person, a CEO, a CFO, someone who's just really running the books of a company, you are basically screwed. Either you're on top of your numbers or they're on top of you. Now, there's lots of programs out there, software that helps you do this. And the problem is there's not one single solution. So you're typically bootstrapping 4 or 5 or 6 different programs together. They don't speak to each other the right way. It's not elegant. It's not cost effective. It doesn't give you the information you need. Hence why Oracle came up with NetSuite, which is a one-solution system for everything financial in your business. You have to check it out. You got to give it a try. It's a game changer. Coming from Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, $50 billion company, one of the richest, coolest guys in the world. I'm just telling you, this program works, and it is a game changer on all levels. I want you to go right now to check it out. Go to their website. They get to get a free strategy book, a free guide called 7 Key Strategies to Grow Your Profits. Go to netsuite.com, okay? netsuite.com/wolf. You got to put /wolf. So netsuite.com/wolf. Again, you're going to get this free guide, 7 Key Strategies to Grow Your Profits at netsuite.com/wolf. Again, here with this product, you get rid of your headaches. You can streamline your financials. It's just cost effective. It's time effective. Works like magic. Check it out now. So I'm going to give you one of my all-time great stories here, which is a scene from the movie, which you all love. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably should, because it's a really great movie, right? But the scene that everyone always talks about, say, was this real? Did this really happen? And that is the world-famous Quaalude car crash. When I actually, leave my house, I go to this local country club, right? And I have these ludes hit me. And if you don't know what ludes are, you'll find out in a minute. They're a really powerful drug. And they hit me when I'm out of my house, and I drive back home, and I think I made it there home without a scratch, and it turns out that a very different thing went down. So let me now start from the beginning here, and I'm going to tell you this story in the exact right way. Make you laugh your ass off, and then when I'm done, I'm going to break down exactly what I did, how I was able to keep you so engaged the entire time, keep you hanging on my every word. And then we'll take a short break, and I'm going to introduce, I have a guest today, one of the all-time great storytellers who's going to literally blow your doors off. And this is an example of the type of guest I'm going to have on going forward. Very famous, very well-known, but just also an amazing guest with a lot of really, really interesting things to say, and also, of course, a bit of controversy around him, like all great people. All right? So let's get going. In order to fully appreciate this story, you need to have at least a basic understanding of the actual history of Quaaludes, which were invented by an Indian, and by that's an Indian from India, meaning dots, not feathers, right? Whatever the case. In the 60s and 1970s, these Quaaludes, right, were used as a sleeping pill, mostly by housewives and grandmas, other nice people like that, who wanted the ability to fall asleep into a pleasant, albeit basically dreamless sleep, but feel totally refreshed and awesome the next day. And it actually worked really well. However, like with all drugs that have side effects, well, it didn't take long for people to realize that if you actually fought that first 5 or 10 minutes of sleep, you'd get a kick-ass fucking high. It was like this incredible euphoric effect. I can't even explain it. Like the best way would say it's almost like imagine drinking 10 beers, or having 10 beers like distilled into like this much of like a shot. Right? And you mainline those 10 beers and bam, you're like just completely buzzed and euphoric. We used to call them, leg openers because, we'd say you could turn a Catholic schoolgirl into a slut. It was just out of control, right? Not a good thing. I know it's not good these days, but I'm still the wolf. Gotta fucking say it, all right? So they were just wild. We called them leg openers, and they were just awesome. We would call them beans or gorilla biscuits, right? All these different nicknames. It got so bad that it was so abused that by the late 70s, the DEA killjoys that they are swept in and they raided the pharmacies and took out they actually went and took the ludes out of the pharmacies because what happened, you had all these doctors, like now you have the opioid crisis and these phony guys in pain clinics, right? Just prescribing opioids that get resold. Well, back then you had diet doctors. So people would line up at these doctors and say, yeah, I have to lose weight. You wear ankle weights, seriously, and you see like 100 kids would be lined up at these phony doctors, and they would write you a prescription for black beauties, uppers, amphetamine, and then they give you the Quaaludes to fall asleep at night because the amphetamines would make you stay awake. Then everyone would throw out the amphetamines. No one wanted those, right? They were just plentiful, right? And then you'd go to these corrupt pharmacies because everyone knew the scripts were bullshit, right? They were phony scripts from phony doctors. They were real doctors, but corrupt doctors, right? And then you crack the script and sell them on the street for like $1 a piece, right? 50 cents a piece. That was a big profit back then, right? DEA outlaws the ludes because for every legitimate prescription written, it's like 100,000 illegitimate ones. It was just the most abused drug in the history of drugs, right? So now, this is when I'm in my late teens, all right? And I'm missing most of the bonus. I've done them once or twice, right, where they were being made illegal, right? But then I graduate out of college. We all remember the ludes was so great back in the day. They disappeared. And then when I start to become rich, it turned out one of my childhood friends was like the biggest lewd dealer in town. He was actually going out and going to pharmacies overseas because in the United States, you could not find the lewd. But other countries were not quite as quick to outlaw them. So you had Switzerland making what were called methacetals. You had Germany making Nornox. You had Italy making what we'll call making Paladin Burmas. Each country had their own brand. Mexico had Mandrex. And then one by one, my friend would go into these countries and he had me as his financial backup because I got really addicted to ludes. And we'd clean out the pharmacies and the manufacturers. And then their local DA would shut it down and that was that, right? And then eventually now they're all gone. You can't get any more real ludes. So whatever you think you're taking is real is not. Sometimes you hear someone making it in a basement. I don't want to say his name yet, but a friend of mine says he actually had the man. I believe him because he's a major player, okay? And if he would give me one, I'd probably still do one today. I don't do drugs anymore, but they're so great, I would do one. So the story is these Lemon 714s were made by a company called Lemon. That was the name of the pharmaceutical company. And every brand of Quaalude, there was Roarers, there was Soapers, okay? There was Paris 400s. But the company Lemon, they got the formulation just right. In other words, it would give you the least bit of sleep inducing, but the maximum kick-ass high, right? So I was taking all these other types of ludes from Spain and Germany. They were real, but they weren't the real ludes, right? And I was paying about $50 a pill. I bid the price up that high. So now flash forward to this day, right? When my drug dealer, who had the best name for a drug dealer, his name was Alan Chemtob. Yeah, chemical. We used to call him Alan Chemical Tob. Alan Chemical Tob calls me and goes, listen, buddy, I got the ultimate gift for you. I have 20 real ludes, $2,000 a piece. A retired pharmacist had them in his safe. He's got to put his kid through college. He's going to crack him. I said, I'll take them fucking all. So what did I do? First thing I do, I run to my bathroom. I stick my finger down my throat. I vomit up all my food. You want to have a perfectly clean digestive tract. I give myself a fucking enema, right? I want to be clean, no marks. All right. I call Danny, my partner in drug crime. Danny comes over. And I said, Danny, surprise. So in the movie, they reversed it with Danny had ludes. It was me who found the ludes from Alan Chemical Tob. So now Alan Chemical Tob comes walking down, and Danny and I just waiting in my basement. We just can't imagine the anticipation here, right? So waiting in my basement, all right? And Alan comes down. He hands me these 20 ludes. They're in the fucking real bottle like that, a bigger bottle like that, okay? And he says, listen, I know you take like 4 ludes at a time now because I had really a high tolerance. He goes, but these are special. You don't want to take more than one. They're really powerful. I'm like, fine, just give me the fucking ludes and leaves. He gives me the ludes, and Danny and I immediately, we take one, we take hot sake. You have hot sake to dissolve them right in your stomach sac, right? We just take a hot sake, and we're waiting. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's tops. What you hear? Nothing. We're like, what the fuck? We're like, all right, we got to get ourselves moving. So we go I had a gym in the basement. We go to the gym. I jump on the treadmill. He jumps on the Stairmaster. We're going, trying to get the fucking metabolism going, right? Nothing. We're like, holy shit. And I said, let me see the bottle. We look at the bottle. It says expired 1982. We're like, oh my God, they're duds. They lost their potency, right? So we said, fuck it, just give me another one. We each take another one. 15 minutes later, nothing. We're like, I can't. And you have to understand, like, the level of demoralization. We were, like, expecting this incredible, this tingling sensation that Luz gave. We're just devastated. We said, give me 2 more. We each took 2 more. Nothing. An hour, we're fucking stone cold sober, just sitting there looking at each other saying, I can't believe these Luz are duds. My phone rings. All right? I answer, I'm like, who is it? It's Bo Deedle. Now, Bo is a famous private investigator. He says, listen, buddy, I need you to go to the country club. Go down the road. Do not talk. Just go there right now and call this number. He gives me a number. I'm like, all right. I go, just go there. Right. So I run out. I'm wearing shorts. It's the dead of winter now. It's freezing out. I get in my car. I live in a big estate in Long Island in the Gold Coast, right? I go out of my iron gates. The gates open. I go down. Just maybe an eighth of a mile down the road is this big country club, Old Brookville, called the Brookville Country Club, right? Beautiful Wasp Country Club there in the Gold Coast of Long Island, right? And I walk up the stairs. It's winter, so no one is there, but the door is open. I walk in. I put my money in the phone. I start dialing the phone. And I'm like, Bo, what's going on? And he's like, buddy, listen, your house, I just found out that your phone is bugged. They're on to you right now. You got to be very careful. Don't talk on the phone. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, what did you say? I'm like, and all of a sudden, I thought I was talking normally because when you're on loop, you think you're speaking normally. And next thing I know, I'm like, what the fuck? And I realized all of a sudden, boom, these fuckers had a delayed fuse from being 20 years old. You get it, 15 years old, right? And all of a sudden, they all explode into my system at once. And I go past the tingle phase, that's phase 1, past the slur phase, past the drool phase, past unconscious. I fall backwards on the floor. I actually see my own reflection in the phone, right? And I'm like, Timber, I fall back and I'm on my back and my eyes are burning like hot coals. My mouth is fucking watering. I'm on the floor shaking and I'm loving it. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm there for like 5 minutes just looking up at the ceiling. I'm like just so stoned. I can't even, I try to get up. I can't walk, right? And then I realize, like, oh shit, Danny is in my basement and in the same condition as me. My wife's going to kill me because she didn't even know what was going on. She was upstairs. She was pregnant at the time, right? So I fucking start crawling. I figure I can't walk. I'll crawl. I crawl like my daughter. My daughter crawls. I'll crawl. I crawl out of the country club, right? And that's that famous scene when I get out and I get to the top of the stairs and I literally cannot negotiate the stairs. So I turned myself into a barrel and I rolled down. But here's the thing, the beauty of the ludes came shining through because when you're on Quaaludes, your body's like rubber. I didn't even scratch myself. I rolled down like 8 stairs. I landed at the bottom, right? I crawled to my car, all right? I get in my car and then I do what every drug addict or drunk has done at least once in their life. You get behind the wheel, you say, God, just please get me home this one time. If you do, I'll never do this ever again. And I prayed to God, just please, Jesus, God, get me home without a scratch. And that's it. And I turn the car on and I start driving literally 1 mile an hour home. And I pull out of the driveway. I drive 1 mile. I'm going down the thing, careful. I make the right turn into my block. I get to my gate. Somehow I push the gate code. I go in. I shut the car from my big giant house. I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for getting me home, right? I get out of my car. I start crawling up on the road. I crawl up the stairs. I get to the front door. I go in. My wife, she goes, oh, my God, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? What happened to Dad? She knew I was addicted to drugs, but she couldn't even believe how fucked up I was. She goes, what's Danny's like? We had to take him to the hospital. He's drooling. He can't stand up. She takes me into the kitchen, and my daughter now is in the high chair at this point. So Chandler, who's now getting married, is in the high chair, right? And Chandler's like, in there, like getting spaghetti on her face, and I'm sitting there, and she's drooling and slurring. I'm drooling. We're kindred spirits, right? I start eating spaghetti in my face. I'm just hanging out. My wife's like, she's like just all disgusted at me. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now at the time I had 2 bodyguards working at my estate all the time. Believe it or not, both named Rocco. Rocco Day, Rocco Night. Coincidence, both the same name, right? Go figure, right? They grab me from under each arm and suddenly, just out of nowhere, all right, just out of nowhere, they drag me upstairs. Come on, Mr. Bell, you gotta go upstairs. You gotta go upstairs. They drag me upstairs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm so stoned, right? They put me into bed. They put me under the covers, put the over my head. They shut the light and leave. So now I'm in my bed. I'm like, okay. I'm like, let me just enjoy my loot high's kind of gone wrong here, but I'll just enjoy the last bits of it here and just fall off into a blissful, dreamless sleep, right? Something like me 5 minutes at the most. All of a sudden, I see, since the light comes on in the room, the covers get pulled back. There's 2 local Old Brookville police there. Now, Old Brookville's a tiny town. It's like fucking Mayberry. If you got any older people here know, it's like from like an old TV show. It's like there's like, an old village police station, right? So there's not like not real police, but they're Old Brookville police, right? They're like, Mr. Belfort. I'm like, what? And like, were you driving your car tonight? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And like something just said to me, clam up. I'm like, I didn't like that response. They pull me out of bed and they say, you're under arrest. And I'm like thinking, for what? What am I under? I couldn't even think straight, but I was kind of trying to understand what's going on. They take me down the stairs in handcuffs, right? So I'm handcuffed, they take me out. And as I walk down the stairs, I open the door and there it is. They're like, Mr. Belfort, you had a car accident. I look at my car and it's fucking totaled. I'm like, who's still like, I to this day, I could still pass a lie detector test. I don't remember hitting anything. But somehow on the way home in a blackout, I hit 7 different cars, ran over property. I actually hit one woman. She didn't get hurt, but I had to pay a lot of money for it. And they arrest me for driving under the influence. And they take me to jail, a little tiny jail like this country jail. They put me in there on the floor, and I pass out cold. Now, the thing with ludes, it's not like alcohol. When you're done with your high, you're straight again. So fine, I'm like, what the fuck? What are you guys doing here? Like, I wake up in the jail cell. They're like, oh, whatever you took wore off, Mr. Belfort. I'm like, get me the fuck out of this cell. I start freaking out. I'm going to have you working in fucking Toys R Us before fucking going crazy, right? I want to call my lawyer. Like, all right, well, you can call your lawyer as long as you agree not to run. Like, they knew where I lived, right? So they let me out of the jail cell. I call my lawyer. I said, listen, his name is Joe Famighetti. Totally wired and corrupt lawyer, right? Local, political connected lawyer, right? I said, Joe, listen. He goes, I know what's going on. I said, listen, Joe, they want me to pee in a cup. They want to drug test me. I said, Joe, I'm on everything but LSD right now. So if I pee in a cup, I'm fucked. I mean, I'm on Quaaludes. I'm on cocaine. I'm on freaking ecstasy. In the last 3 days, I've taken 10 different drugs, right? He's like, no, it's fine. Just pee in the cup. I'm like, Joe, if I pee in the cup, it's gonna flash positive for everything. He goes, it's fine. Pee in the cup. Pee in the cup, right? So after 5 minutes, they have the little quick testers. They're like, oh, we see you don't like LSD. I'm like, that's positive for everything else. They're like, well, you're going to jail tonight, boy, and you're going to the bad jail, the central lockup, because it's too late to get arraigned. You have to spend the night in jail. I'm like, oh my God. It's like 10 o'clock by now, 11 o'clock. So I'm waiting there. Like, yeah, the car will come and get you midnight. You're going to be spending the night in the tombs, right? I'm freaking out, right? Anyway, about 11:15, the door opens to the jail. Some old man in pajamas comes in like a wandering Alzheimer's victim. He goes, excuse me, is Jordan Belfort here? I'm like, here. He goes, I'm Judge Stevens. You're arraigned. He fucking walks out. My lawyer got some corrupt judge to get out of bed in the middle of the night, come down, arraign me, let me out. So I get out of jail, right? I get in the car with Joe, all right? And I'm like, Joe, I'm fucked. I'm going to get in trouble for all these drugs. And he goes, really? He goes, did they catch you in the car? I'm like, no, I was home. He goes, how did they know you didn't take the drugs when you got home and you were in bed? See, it's not illegal to have drugs in your system. It's illegal to be caught with drugs or driving under the influence. They could not prove I was driving under the influence. They didn't catch me in the car. Crazy, and I got off. Anyway, don't try that at home. It's a great story, but let's now talk about why it's such a great story, why it was so great in the movie, and how you could use this in your own life to tell, hopefully, more empowering stories. That's a really funny fucking story, right? So I prepared some slides for you. I have one slide here with like about 9 different steps here of how to tell a great story. And then after I'm done, we'll take a short break here. Like just go to our sponsor here. And then I have an awesome guest who's one of the all-time great storytellers in the world, a famous director, not Scorsese, but almost as famous as Scorsese, up there, really a major league guy here, coming in to go through, and he's one of the greatest storytellers in the world, so you'll get a kick out of him. He's a funny guy and a good friend. All right, 9 steps to successful storytelling, all right? And we start with step 1, which means frame your point and then illustrate it with the story. In other words, don't tell a fucking random story. Stories are supposed to have meaning and a message. Stories reinforce a point. So one of the problems I see all the time with people telling stories is they tell the wrong story. There's no message to the story. It didn't get triggered as a result of something they want to teach or just make someone laugh. And my next guest that you're about to see is like just the world's greatest storyteller. And I was with him, made me think of this. I was out for dinner with him. And as great as a storyteller, I just sometimes let him speak because he's so fucking funny and engaging. And his career was built on that. Also natural talent in what he does, but his ability to communicate was instrumental in success. So it starts with, number 1, framing your point first. So you have a point you make, and then you tell a story that is congruent with that point. That's step number 1. Number 2, don't be afraid. This is the big one. Tell a personal story. It's what happened to you, not someone else's story. I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. Let me just tell you, I don't care who you are, what you do, or where you're from. You have a story to tell. You have great experiences in life. If you want to get real with yourself and get authentic, you could tell such a great story, and that story then will reinforce the point you're trying to make. But just don't tell a random story for no reason. That's stupid, okay? Number 3, know how to use a pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt is some sort of offhanded statement. It's kind of not unexpected that kind of makes everyone's like, what? And it grabs people's attention. Like when I started this whole story about the car crash, where did I start? Did I say I was driving my car? No, I said, okay, you go back to India, 1950. You're like, what? India, 1958? Dots, not feathers? And you're like, what the fuck's he even talking about? That's a pattern interrupt. I throw something at you that's not expected, and you're like, you wait a second. So you start to focus in on me, and you're like, what the hell? And I have your attention, okay? Now then, from there, you want to follow your pattern interrupt is by telling your story, and I'll get back to this in more detail, with active dialogue. Don't just tell a story and she went there and he went there and he was saying he had said that. And no, you get into the story. You bring them into the stories if it's happening now, and you use active dialogue. And I'll get to that a bit more in detail with the next slide, next prompt here, okay? And you want to tell that story in the moment. In other words, you use dialogue that says, and I was sitting. You bring them into that moment where the story's happening. You don't tell a story in past tense. You start telling your story in past tense, but all of a sudden, you're like saying, and I looked, and he says, not he said, and he says to me, and you bring them into the moment of the story. My guest is he's sitting across from me. Now, you can't see him yet. You will soon. He's probably dying because he does this so naturally. He's probably saying, "Oh, fuck, that's exactly what I do," because he's the master of storytelling, okay, and one of the greatest directors of all time. And you'll see, that I'm not lying in a few seconds. All right. Next, okay, number 6. Boom. Okay, enter the story as late as possible. Now, what I find happening very often with people, and just be careful with this one, because you don't want to enter too late, but sometimes people will start to tell you a story, and the buildup before they get to the fucking point is so long that you lose them before you get to the good part. So what you want to do is enter the story later rather than earlier, and then step 7 is bring the scene alive. You tell a short story with massive details. You describe a tree, what the person, how they were dressed, what they were doing at that moment. I'm laughing because he told me this story, which was ridiculous the other night. But the point is that you bring the scene alive. The devil's in the details. You tell it so richly with details, dialogue, gerunds, meaning ing. I was walking, laughed. You bring them in, okay? And that even means sometimes using funny voices and you becoming the actual story yourself. Great comics like Robin Williams. No one in the world was better than Robin Williams at that. He could tell you a story. You were just dying from his imitation of people. And Eddie Murphy was great. And Chris Rock on stage. And they walk and they tell you stories. And you're like just dying because of where they just imitate people. Because people are funny. We're all funny. Don't be bashful. And don't go on long. No, it's a shorter peak story with big peaks, laughs, body language, the whole 9 yards. Step number 8 is, okay, again, I just broke this one out because you want to recreate the tonality of the moment. And my friend did this the other night to the point I could not stop laughing when he told the story. I don't know if I want to tell this particular story today, but the point was fucked up. But I'm still laughing. He in the middle of the story, he started imitating what he was doing at the moment. I'm still laughing, and I couldn't stop. I said, "Could you do that again?" I couldn't get it out of my head because when someone brings you into a story and uses a funny tonality, they got you. And if you follow the other steps as well, you just own the room, and you are just interesting, and you get what you want in life. All right. Next is when you go into your close, you got to bring them into a nice soft close. You don't end the story in madness. Start bringing them in for a landing, and then share the lesson of the story as you exit. And in a learning situation, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to raise money, or you're just trying to teach someone a certain skill set, you bring the story back to the lesson at the end and exit right where you left off and keep on with the lesson. That's the secret to telling a great story. And my guest, we come back from a really, really short commercial break right here. I'm going to bring this guy on, and he's the master of all masters of telling stories. And I'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. All right, time to hear from one of my favorite sponsors, Magic Spoon. The people who take the cereals we loved as kids that were delicious and awesome, that will actually give you diabetes and probably put you in the hospital when you're older. Now they have these ultra healthy versions that are awesome, delicious, that will literally promote health versus destroy health, right? So imagine those cereals that you woke up to when you were like 5, 6, 10 years old. You sit there and read the box. Well, imagine that in a healthy form. Cocoa type cereals, fruity cereals. You get all this. I'm not going to mention the brands, but you know what they are, and you know how much you loved them as a kid. Well, now you can have them as an adult and feel good. What I like most myself, the kind of travel packs they have is really, really cool stuff. And here's the deal. They're so confident that you will love their product. They have a 100% happiness guarantee. You try it, you don't like it, they give you your money back. Pretty cool. Go to this company. I'll give you the address here at magicspoon.com/wolf to get your variety pack. Try it today. Use that promo code WOLF at checkout. You get free shipping. And again, magicspoon.com/wolf. Use the promo code WOLF for free shipping. Get your money back or happiness guarantee. But believe me, that's not going to be something you have to cash in because this stuff is awesomely delicious. All right, guys, we're back here, and guess who I got here? The man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest directors of all time. Great guy, someone I really have a lot of respect for. Brett Ratner, what's up, buddy?
Great to be here, Jordan.
Brett, so the reason I asked you to come on here is because you are literally one of the most interesting people in the world. You are. You just fucking are. And the reason you're so interesting is not because because of all the accomplishments in the movies and TV and stuff you've done. We'll do a quick list of some of the movies that you've done. My favorite's The Family Man, but you've done Rush, all the Rush Hours. What are some of the other ones you've done?
X-Men.
I mean, it just goes on and on. It's too big.
Red Dragon.
And how many movies have you produced as a producer with Rat Pack? I mean, all the Warner Brothers
we
pictures.
financed about 100 movies, but I directed 10 movies only. So
Okay. Oh, but yeah.
Quentin's
10.
only done 9, so he's. I think we started around the same time, but producing, I don't know. I can't count, honestly. It's a lot.
Ridiculous. And also, you start off doing music videos, right? That was the big one.
Music videos was the beginning, but I mean, I started off. I would film someone's bar. I would do anything. I would just film. My dream was just to be a filmmaker since I was probably 8 years old. So I got a movie camera as a gift, and all I did was film everything and anything. I would after school. I would bring kids home after school. They were kind of like blaxploitation meets kung fu meets Miami Vice, kind of like exploitation films, and I would just, kids would come over. I would recruit actors, so I would say, "Hey, you want to be in my film?" And it was, believe it or not, it was hard. Like only certain people would come and when they wanted to do their own thing after school in high school, even before that, and they would come over, and I was every day. I don't remember a day going by from 8 years old till I went to college that I wasn't directing or shooting a film every day.
All right, I wanted to stop you because you could talk forever, and I want you to teach people. You have a skill. I asked you to come on as a friend for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You have a skill that I think is the most valuable skill in the world, and that is, and you're one of the best in the world. And I think I am too, but you're up. We're in a room together. It's one day.
We're kindred spirits.
No, but one day it's the George show, it's the Brett show. You are the world's greatest storyteller, top 3 or 4 story. I mean, unbelievable personal stories, right? And it comes through in your ability to direct, I think. But why don't we go back in your life and with that in mind? I want to start with film school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to film school at NYU, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a place where all the top people, already famous, successful people would send their kids that wanted to go into the business. So you were people like Steven Spielberg's daughter and who else were there? The Coppola, right?
No, not Spielberg's daughter. Scorsese's daughter. I mean, everybody. Bianca Jagger was in one of my classes. I mean, it was like everybody famous. But I have to back up, though. I mean, so you want me to tell the story of how I got into film school?
I want you to tell this. I want you to talk whatever you want, but I want it to be about how you use storytelling to become the most famous director and one of the biggest producers in Hollywood.
Thank you. Well, look, I'm old now, so I've lived a long life. So my story, I have a lot of stories, obviously. But I was and living in the moment, I didn't know I was going to have. My biggest inspiration was Robert Evans. Before I met him, even I would listen to his book on tape, and that's why I love and admire your book so much, because it was so honest,
right?
And it was so real. And I love storytellers, and I love stories. I mean, that's like I watch a movie every day. Even maybe I fall asleep half the time, halfway through. If I put it on the movie too late, but I was always interested in biographies and biopics and people's lives. And I would go to the set of my first movie every day and listen to Bob Evans on tape of
what was his book again?
The Kid Stays in the Picture.
Stays in the Picture.
It wasn't a movie yet. And it was so inspiring. I would close my eyes and daydream and think, one day I'm going to have stories like this. But I didn't realize I already had my own stories. And I think what it does is, look, it gets you in trouble too, because my problem is I tell some of my stories in front of people that I don't know, and then sometimes they use it against me. So it's not. But my stories, I think, for the stories that I think it's meant to do a few things. One is to introduce yourself. I mean, especially from your perspective on what you're inspiring people to do is to be successful, to have relationships, meet people, let people get to know you,
right?
Inspire them. I think telling a personal story is very useful, I think in accomplishing that. The other thing is it's and it can inspire people, because the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, hearing Bob Evans' book on tape and hearing what he went through, and
just give a quick summation to those that don't know about
Robert Evans was the youngest executive in Hollywood to run a movie studio. He was an actor, and he became the head of a movie studio because the head of Gulf and Western believed in him and hired him to run the studio. And what was fascinating about him is he greenlit The Godfather. He greenlit, some of the greatest movies ever. He took the studio from being 9th out of 10 studios to number 1.
And who was the chair? Was that what's his name? Who was the chairman of Gulf? Head of Gulf Western?
It was the owner of Gulf and
Who was it?
Western. It was I'll come back to you in a second.
Okay, anyway,
I'm out of
fine.
mind, okay. But what happened was he then because he wanted to get, it wasn't everyone was getting rich. He wasn't getting rich from it, but he understood there was the power lied in the IP, in the property. So he optioned so he decided with Paramount's money to buy Simon and Schuster, so he can get the books before anybody.
My publisher.
And right. So and it was, I don't remember, it was like $10 million. It was crazy. It's a multi-billion-dollar company now. But he believed in the intellectual property and the story, and he always focused on great stories. And what he did was, which is fascinating, because he wanted to get a bigger piece of the pie, because Paramount became number 1. It was Gulf and Western it was a huge company, and everyone was getting rich except for him. So he made a deal where he could produce movies while he's the head of the studio. And everybody wanted him dead. I mean, they wanted his head. They were like, how is this guy? He's greenlighting his own movies, but look what he greenlit. Chinatown, Marathon Man, Urban Cowboy. He had the best taste. At the end of the day, it's about taste. And it applies to everything, including storytelling. But he was just a great raconteur, storyteller. He had a great voice. He was just, and I met him, and he became my mentor, and I lived with him for 2 years. And it was the greatest film school, the greatest life school I'd ever been through. And he wasn't really, he was loved and admired, but by some, and hated by many. But when I was living at his house, the only people that would come by his house was Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson. I mean, nobody, he was like from another era, from another generation. And if I wanted to direct a movie, I would let him read the script and he would give me his thoughts on it. If I wanted to break up with my girlfriend, he would write the letter for me. If I wanted her back, he would call her up and beg her to come back. He was more than a father to me. He was like my mentor. He was like my greatest. I would sit on his bed every night, and I have hundreds of pictures, and he would just tell me stories. And I would listen to his stories. And even if he didn't repeat them a lot, but sometimes I repeated, but I loved hearing them. And he appreciated that I wanted to listen to them. So this is going on for years. I'm living at his house. I was the best man, I think, on his 7th or 8th marriage. I don't remember. And all of a sudden, The Kid Stays in the Picture comes out, the documentary that Graydon Carter produced. And all of a sudden, everyone in Hollywood realized how cool he was and wanted to be his friend and wanted him to. And so every day, filmmakers, Wes Anderson, I remember Quentin, everybody, every director, filmmaker was coming over to sit on his bed and listen to his stories. I started getting jealous. I'm like, wait a second, you're my producer. He goes, kid, I love you. Don't worry about it, But I love the adulation he was getting. I love the admiration and the respect he finally was getting. And I love seeing Antonio Banderas get nominated. I love seeing these guys from a different era. It shows you that people have multiple lives. People can come back. Like you're one of my biggest inspirations because how you turned your life around, your success is just fascinating. And Bob is one of those guys. He's a survivor. And people that are survivors, that have the lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs, it keeps me going. Right. And I've had these mentors. You're like my youngest friend, Jordan, because my friends are like in their 70s and 80s. And I don't pick their brain, I eat their brain. Right. I did not spend, I was like, if I'm living here at Bob Evans' house, I want to know. And, guys like his, Sumner Redstone, and he was very close to, a lot of, people from a different era. But
that's who I thought was the head of, was it Sumner Redstone?
No.
So who was it originally?
Sumner Redstone was Viacom.
Okay, got it.
It was before that.
Okay, got it.
I can't.
Fine, don't worry.
Anyway, and he, so Bob was, I was always attracted to older men that, that lived these lives that were just, inspiring for me. And I ate them. I ate their stories. I just literally wanted to be around them. But
the thing is that you, though, are someone that they want to be around. So that goes both ways. Not anyone, and because I know everything you're saying is accurate and true, and I see when I'm with you, most famous people, it's like it's a who's who of Hollywood in the world, are your friends, right? It's amazing. But what they all say about you is you are the most entertaining, most fun, most engaging person. So there's a two-way street. So I guess at some point you ate their brains, but you became the one that it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, I think it's because of I think it's all about positivity. You know, I have an incredible amount of positivity. The world can be crumbling around me, and I'm just focused. I know who I am. I know what I love, my passions. I wake up every day loving, eating, sleeping, breathing movies. And so whether or stories, really, storytelling.
I understand, yeah.
When I was, for a short period of time, I decided I want to take pictures and be a photographer. And I mean, after I was already a movie director, people were like, why are you taking pictures? Most photographers want to make movies like you. And I'm like, yeah, and I would try to tell a story. I would challenge myself. And I would try to tell a story with a single frame. And I did music videos, and my music videos were always like mini movies. And if I did anything, I was directing short films. I just, every day I'm hearing pitches, I'm reading books, I'm reading scripts, I'm watching films. It's like stories are my life. That's what drives me. And I think, can
I stop one second?
Yeah.
I don't think most people know this, but you basically invented the music video industry, or not? Well, you were at least responsible.
Well, in hip hop,
in hip hop, you did pretty much. You know, just
what I did do. I don't know invent it, but I did cross it over because music videos. There was when I was a kid. There was MTV only played rock videos, and there wasn't a platform for rap music videos except on cable, and MTV was mainstream. Obviously, MTV was huge. So my videos, when I started doing videos, I did for Def Jam and then I did for Uptown Records. And when I did videos for Puffy or Heavy D, and I started crossing over. And then, of course, I did hardcore ones with Wu-Tang Clan and Redman and all these artists. But then I crossed into like Mariah Carey, who became a very close friend. I did a lot of her videos. But I was doing very cool. It was interesting because
who were some of the early rappers that people wouldn't know that because it's not.
Oh, but I did. I mean, everybody. I mean,
I did big names. Yeah.
Run DMC, and I also did D'Angelo, great R&B artist. But what I learned early on, because I was a workhorse, I mean, I would like literally, if I could do a video a week, I would do it. And then I was getting offered 10 videos a month. So it was hard for me to do it myself. So I started finding other young directors and bringing them in and having them direct the videos. But some of them deliver, some of them wouldn't, and then I would have to either spend more time trying to fix the video or working on the video or helping, kind of mentoring the filmmaker, which is great. But what was interesting is I realized I was doing great videos for kind of underground rappers or Das Effects or these artists that most people didn't know. I mean, in the hip-hop world they knew, but they weren't mainstream. But the problem was the records, I loved the record personally because they were real hip-hop records, but they weren't crossover, they weren't radio friendly, or they weren't hits. So if they weren't a hit, the video wouldn't air a lot.
Right.
And I wanted people to see my work, but I consider myself so blessed. The day I started directing music videos was the first day. The first day I finished my first music video, which is for Public Enemy, was the first day that MTV started putting the director's name on the video. See, before you would see a music video, you wouldn't know who the director was, right? Now, all of a sudden, my name 20 times a day, 30 times a day, director, Brett Ratner, director. So then all the rappers who knew me personally would ask me, oh, we want Brett to do our video. We want him to do our next video. So it was a huge opportunity for me. It was just timing, right? Some things happen by luck. Right. Luck is when, Bob Evans said, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Yeah. And what happened was when I was doing these music videos, it was amazing because, I was doing, I did over 100 videos, but I was doing these videos, but if they weren't hits, nobody saw the video. So then I said to the record company, I'll only do the second single. The second single is the one that gets the most push. They drop the first single to get the audience, and then the second single always was known in the record business. I don't know if it is now, but back in the day, the second single was always the hit. Or I would really be more selective about which records I would do a video for. So if I picked a hit record or important record, like I did D'Angelo, Brown Sugar, it it got much more visibility, and that's when Madonna asked me to do her video for Austin Powers, because she saw my D'Angelo video. And she wanted to work with me. If it was an obscure thing that was rarely seen, except this thing called The Box. It was called The Box. It was a cable show. And record companies, it was like payola. Record companies you can order videos in by your local cable operator and pay like 99 cents. And record was like, shit, we'll spend 10 grand and just order it 10,000 times. It'll go to number one on The Box. But anyway, stories were my life. Storytelling was my life. And I think it's because I grew up in a house with my mom, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother, and my grandfather, obviously, in one house, okay? My mom had me really young at 16, and every day when I would come home from school, my great-grandmother would cook for the family because my grandma and my mom didn't know how to cook, and we would tell stories around, like, well, how was your day, Brett? And my grandfather would tell a story about when he was a kid, or everyone was always, I think maybe it's a Jewish thing, it's a cultural thing, storytelling, but it was just always, storytelling was always, and I would always try to tell a story to either make them laugh or make them feel something or tell a story I heard, or, my grandfather would tell me a story he read in the newspaper or something interesting. He was a doctor, right? They're not filmmakers. They're not in the business. I knew nobody in the business, but I dreamed of being a movie. And connected to you, my favorite movie of all time, it was 1980. I was 11 years old, was Raging Bull.
Great movie.
And I saw the movie and I was like, I was so blown away. But I don't know why. I mean, my house could watch R-rated movies. I mean, it's a pretty brutal film to watch at 11. But
Kathy Moriarty, right?
Yeah, I was so
amazing. De Niro.
Blown away by the movie. I was so blown away by the movie.
Ridiculous. That
I said, well, who's the director of this film? And they said, well, Martin Scorsese. I said, well, how did he become a director? He goes, well, he went to NYU Film School. And I was determined from 10 years old, 10 or 11, to go to NYU. Now, you go to college normally when you're 18.
And that's a pattern interrupt right there, what he just did there. Okay, so here we are in the story. So look how he brought you into a story. Just to stop 1 second, let you continue on. Is Scorsese, everyone's like, what? And now he's telling his own story. Keep going.
So when you're 18, you go to college. I'm 10 or 11. 8 years is almost your entire life. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't wait this long. So I go and tell my mom I'm too smart.
Stop. I'm 10 or 11. Look what this guy does. It's fucking, it's so natural. It's crazy. I'm 10 or 11. I go to my mom, present tense, as I say.
And I say, Mom, I'm too smart for the kids in my class. I'm not learning anything. She goes and complains. I was in a Hebrew school at the time, to the head rabbi. They skipped me 2 grades. So now I'm on my way. Now I'm on the path to graduate at 16 years old.
Okay.
But I did something else. I did like a Woody Allen move where I literally decided, why do I have to do homework? I'm going to be a director. And I just stopped studying anything but film. I would only focus on film. And looking back, did I make a mistake? Maybe or not. But it hurt me because the greatest filmmakers I know are the ones who expanded their education as far as study philosophy, study sociology, study different things. And I was like, I just care about movies. I'm not going to do my homework anymore. But the teachers loved me, and they really thought I was smart and intelligent and hardworking. But they
driven for sure,
not a good student. And I said, well, I talked about from 10 years old that I'm going to NYU Film School. It's the only school, Jordan, that I applied to. Now, most kids apply to 4 or 5 schools. If you don't get into one, you don't get disappointed, especially one with my grades. And I said, it's the only school I'm going to go to. If I don't get into school, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to make films. And I go, my teacher recommends me, my counselor, whatever, my advisor at school says, go for an interview. I fly up on Eastern Airlines, $69, I remember, right? Eastern Airlines from Miami Beach from Miami to New York. I go to the interview. I bring my
Netherlands. Oh my God!
I bring details. Right, you were talking about details before. It's about details. I bring my little projector. Okay, I open the projector. I put my little film in it.
Look, I opened the projector.
Yeah, I had so many films. I had to pick. Okay, what's my best film? I set it up, sit it on the desk. It was one of those projectors that shoots on the wall. The woman from the admissions office comes in and says, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm showing you my film. You're gonna love it." She goes, "We don't look at films here." I'm like, am I in the wrong building? Is this not the film school? They're like, yeah, this is the film school, but we look at grades, young man. This is academic university. Opens up my file. She didn't know I was 16 years old, by the way. She opens up my file. She looks at my file. She goes, young man, let me stop you before you finish with the projector. You have the worst grades of any student that's ever applied to this school even. What made you think you're going to get into this school? I said, no, you don't understand. She goes, no, you don't understand. She said, you're not getting in. Now, they're not supposed to tell you that because if you go and kill yourself, they're liable, right? They're supposed to send you a letter like a month later. I said, no, you don't, trust me. If you see my film, you're going to let me right in. She goes, young man, have a nice day, and kicks me out of her office. I'll never forget, I was wearing a corduroy 3-piece suit with the vest. It was corduroy, okay? I would go into a payphone to call my mom and to call her collect, right? From a payphone. And all of a sudden, I see somebody with a NYU sweatshirt. I go, excuse me, where's the dean's office? And I just get this thing. And that's a part of, that's chutzpah, that's tenacity,
balls,
right?
yeah.
And I get that from my mom, from the women in my family.
Sure.
My mom and my grandmother especially is like, you know, they're fearless, okay?
Right.
And I'll go back to fear, what makes you successful, I think. What makes an individual successful. A lot of fear it has to do with it. And so I say, the dean's office, they say, the dean's office is on the 8th floor of this building. I go up to the office, and there's a little old secretary with one of those old-fashioned appointment books with big, giant books. I go, hi, I'm here to see the dean, because I just knew you can't say, oh, hi, can I start explaining and telling a story, and like, can I see the dean? Let me tell you, what happened. I just said, I'm here to see the dean. Like, okay, you're going to let me in to see the dean. Like, you're already getting in to see the dean, right? And she says, hold on, do you have an appointment? I said, no. They said, okay, 3 months from now, on the third Thursday of the month, you can see the dean for 15 minutes. I said, no, miss, you don't understand. This is life or death. And she looks at me, she goes, okay, hold on. And she goes in to see the dean, and she says, there's a young man out there says it's an emergency. Can you spend a minute with him? She's like, yeah, send him in. But I was sitting out there, I felt like Charlie Sheen, because of course, movies are
Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko, and I'm sitting out there going, oh my God, what am I going to say?
I'm going to have moments. This is one of them.
And I'm going to have 2 minutes. And what am I going to say to him? It's like, I'm sure you've had those moments. Everyone has. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is like important what I say. And I go in and I say, Dean, I heard your speech at the, not the commencement, but whatever it was, when they admission kind of thing to all the future possible students. I said, since I'm 10 years old, I wanted to go to this university. It's the only school I applied to. The admissions office told me that I have bad grades, or I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get in. She said, I'm not going to get in. I said, if I don't get in, that's fine. But I just want you to know I'm going to be living on my mom's couch for the rest of my life. But I'm still going to be making movies, no matter what. He goes, get this young man's docket on my desk. About a mom, I said, Dean, you're not going to like what's in the docket, okay? You're not going to like it. But believe me, if you let me into this school, I'm going to become a great filmmaker one day. And shakes my hand, I leave. I don't know what's going to happen. I have one of these I fly back down to Miami, pathologically positive moms that I'm like, Mom, I'm scared, I'm nervous. She's like, Brett, oh, come on, just wait till we get the letter and see what happens. Don't panic yet when you don't know yet. Like, let's just see what happens. I get 3 weeks later, I open the envelope. It says, you've been accepted to NYU Film School. And that was a defining moment. That was a defining moment in my life because I was told no, a definitive no, and I turned it into a yes. Now, not every no in my life.
Been turned into yes.
I've been a turnaround. But this one was important, and it happened, and it was whatever. It was God. It was a higher power. It was part of me. It was whatever it is. I got that, and that kind of helped me through film school, through my early career, through my career. But what I was going to go back on was fearlessness is important. Now, not everybody has a loving mother or loving grandparents like I do who made me feel loved, who told me how great I was, how smart I was, how how special I was. So what I meant is they gave me a lot of love. So
and confidence.
What I wasn't afraid of, but what I was confident of, that if I couldn't become a director, my mom was still going to love me.
Right.
My grandparents were still going to hug and kiss me every day
Right.
when I came home. So I was fearless about that. But the people who don't have that, who have problems with family or not love, they just have to love themselves. Because if you love yourself, you're going to be fearless. You're going to be confident. You're going to go in there knowing who you are and be successful. I think what you have and what you've done, which is so amazing, is that your confidence, you have also something on top of confidence is you have intelligence. But one of the most important skill set, especially to be a filmmaker or to own a company, you have to be a great communicator. You have to be able to articulate your vision.
Right.
You have to get other people. Someone described me as like the kid who would get everyone in the neighborhood, all the kids out to come play football. Okay?
They bought into your vision.
They didn't want to leave. They want to stay home playing video games. Right. And I would get everyone out of their house, in there playing the game, and we would have the best day of our lives, right? And we would just, so I think some people are just like that. Some people can motivate other people, can inspire other people, can.
I gave a speech in Africa to kids underprivileged, and I said that exactly. I said there's 3 things you need to know. A, you need to have a vision.
Yeah.
B, the ability to share the vision.
Yeah.
And then C, the strategies to make it real, which is why you went to film school.
Yeah.
Because you also had to make your vision a reality. You had certain skills you needed, certain connections. So you actually willing to do the work, and you put yourself. So let's go to.
But then I get to film school, and I walk into film school, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it wasn't I was intimidated by the fact that these kids were like famous, or I recognize their last names because their parents were either heads of studios or people in the industry and successful people. It's that their work blew me away. They were so. If I could find some of these, maybe they're stockbrokers now, maybe they're investment bankers. Because, sorry, no, I'm saying they didn't. Their dream maybe was to be filmmakers, but 99% of the people in film school don't. Right. They don't publish those reports. I don't know if it's 99%, but film school's like
the vast majority.
Film school's so popular now. Everybody wants to be a filmmaker, right? But they don't want to, see it through. They go to film school, it doesn't happen right away, and then they quit. One thing I knew, no matter what, there was no way I was quitting. Did I feel like quitting? Oh my God. I would sit there. What made me quit is not that these kids were all rich or all from privilege or Hollywood or connected to Hollywood. It's their work. I saw their work, and even though I had done a few hundred short films by the time I got to NYU, so I felt like I was a veteran almost. I felt like, oh my God, I'm a 16-year-old veteran. I felt like I had the experience. These kids were doing work that literally blew me away, that I was literally would say to myself, one film I'll remember, I said, I can never be as talented as that guy, so I might as well just not. I'll never make not even talented him. It wasn't about him personally. I'll never make a film as good as that.
Wow.
I never even fathomed directing a big movie. Like that was, I wanted to do it, but I didn't understand how it worked. It was so far out of my reach. When I would see Raging Bull, or I couldn't understand, you could watch movies and think you could dissect it, and until you actually make a film, now it's, obviously nature, but let alone these short films in class, there were such talented kids. Remember, they didn't get in based on their work. They got in based on their academics. So they were intelligent. They were top 2%. It's a very hard school to get into. So I was just, I was intimidated, but I was also inspired. And it made me competitive. It made me even more hungry because I realized, okay, what I realized early on, which I was very lucky, I was the kid that would be in math class. I was horrible in math. And literally the teacher, I would be the guy going, sir, can you just say that again? Brett, get a tutor. They're like, come on. I was like trying to get the teacher to explain the concept of the math quiz and of the formula. And I would see this kid next to me, and he'd be reading a comic book underneath the table. And I'm like, this guy doesn't care. He's just not even paying attention. I was taking notes. I would go home, read the notes. I wasn't good at math, so I just knew I had to. I would read them in the morning. I would ask somebody smart to explain it to me, and I would go and I would take the test, and the next day I'd get back and I'd have an A but I worked after class. I studied. I got a tutor. I did whatever I had to do. This kid wouldn't even pay attention, reading comic books, picking his nose. I was like, he doesn't care. I had one of the most valuable early lessons I got. I looked over. He had an A. I said, oh my God, this guy didn't even listen. But he had a natural ability.
Yeah.
Some people have a natural gift and a natural talent. And this guy didn't have to study, where I had to work. But I realized, oh, wait a second. I can get that same A. I just have to work 5 times as hard or 10 times as hard.
Right.
He doesn't have to work hard. And when you're artistically talented, somehow it's connected to laziness. And I'm not saying the perception. I'm saying when you know you're gifted, sometimes in people, it just makes them not overly confident, but it comes easy. It comes easy. It didn't come easy for me to
Can you think of a director, a famous one that you think is just so talented that's lazy, or without hurting, not in a bad way, but who it was just so naturally gifted that it just came so easy to them? Can you think of someone?
No, I would think I could put it, and I'll talk about my friend who was one of the people who was Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen, it's just about your personal passion and dreams. I don't think Charlie Sheen, and I can't speak for him, but this is my perception, ever loved acting. But he's such a good, you've seen Platoon. He's such a great, actually, my favorite performance of his is in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, it's great. In the principal's office at the end. Yeah.
That
short scene.
in the jails.
No, didn't he meet the girl? Oh, in the jail, right?
In the
He meets
jail.
the girl. Yeah.
And I said,
the sister,
it was
baby
his,
from
I think it was,
Dirty Dancing.
I think it was his first movie.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I'm like, that was so brilliant. And what did you do? He says, I didn't move a muscle. And if you watch the scene, he's completely still. Stillness is important. And I use that later. Everything I've got, every piece of information, I get it and I use it in another way. I park it in my brain, and then I bring it back somehow, and it works.
Right.
Somebody tells me this is what I did to have that great moment, right? And I think Charlie is somebody who, because his dad was in the business, his brother, it was a very easy thing. He had a natural gift.
Sure.
What his passion was baseball. He always wanted to be a professional baseball player, and maybe he wasn't good enough. I don't know. I don't know the history, right? So it's like when
He did a movie, Major League.
he loved baseball, but I'm saying when you're not the best, you tend to work harder to get there. And the most successful people, are probably the ones that weren't the most talented starting out.
I totally get
but
it.
worked harder. So I recognized early on somebody with 90% talent and 10% effort is not going to be as successful as somebody with 90% effort and 10% talent, or whatever the percentage is. Someone with less talent but with hard effort. So what I started doing, is I started, you could call it cheating, but meaning they wanted you to have in film school the equipment. Every student, to be fair, because people came from money, you could probably rent equipment. You get your equipment at school and you have it for X amount of hours. They want every student to have the equipment so the equipment, you get from 9 to 5, say, every day, okay? And you check it in, you check it out. Even at the end of the day, you check it in. You can't keep it overnight.
Right.
And I would forget on Friday at the end of the day to bring the equipment back.
Yeah, right.
I would get in trouble, but guess what I got to do?
Yeah, the equipment all weekend to work.
I was filming all weekend. And I was filming and refilming and reshooting and picking up. And everybody else was partying and doing drugs and getting high and drinking and having fun, what they do in college. I never had a sip of alcohol. I never drank. I never did a drug.
Your whole life to this
day. To this day.
Fucking amazing.
And
me neither. Not.
I'm the opposite of you, but I spent every weekend when everyone else was doing partying, I was shooting, and I kept perfecting my craft, learning. Okay, what is the difference between a steady cam? Even though I didn't have a steady cam, but I used a wheelchair instead of a steady camera. I used a different piece of equipment, different lenses. I learned those lenses like they were my own eyes. A 50 millimeter is going to have this depth of field. It's going to out of focus. So I knew, and I wish the only regret I have when I would say is in film school, I wasn't, you're supposed to edit one film. You're supposed to shoot another film, be a cinematographer, be a director on one. I'm like, I'm only going to be a director. Because I thought there were kids that were so talented as cinematographers. They wanted to be cinematographers. They wanted to be editors. I didn't bother learning
Interesting.
how to edit, how to be that. And when I went out into the real world and I started directing music videos and I was getting paid, I was really getting paid to learn, right? And I got to rent better equipment and hire professional crews. I realized that I wasn't getting the most out of them because they realized I couldn't do their job as well. I was just the director, or what a director's supposed to be. So when it's the director, the filmmaker that can do every single person's job, that's going to get something that's going to get respect. Yeah, he'll get respect, but it's going to get the most.
No bullshit.
You could get on the phone. You're teaching them how to cold call,
right?
And you could give them an example and get on the phone and say, "This is how you do it."
Yeah.
You have to be able to do it as well. So anyway, I'm in film school, and I do my now. Yes, it's competitive. It doesn't happen, and I'm like, and you do your film that you graduate with, your senior thesis film, is your resume. You take that out in the world. If people like it, you get to make another film, or you get opportunities at least, right? So if it's not good, so your film is everything. It's like your first real movie. Todd Phillips, who just got nominated for 11 Oscars, his film was a documentary, right? It was on Gigi Allen, I think, and it was so. You had that film, and that film gets you, and got him a lot of recognition because it was a great film. It doesn't matter the format. Right, it was a great film.
You remember his film. That's obviously a good
And
one.
I did a film I did a film, and I went and studied directors who I admire. Scorsese's first movie, and Martin Brest's first movie, and directors who went to Spike Lee's first student films, and they were all better than anything I can imagine I could do. But I ended up doing this short film, okay, and it was crazy because the film. I just want to tell you. I want to lead into another story, which was connected to the most important thing I got out of film school, and I think you get out of anything in life. One of the most important things to help you to become successful is to get a mentor. A mentor is so important. I wish my father was a director. I could pick his brain, ask him. And my friend is a developer. His father was a developer, and he's like, I don't want to ask my dad. I could do it on my own. And he was failing for a short period of time because he wasn't asking his father for advice. Having that mentor was so important. So he inspired me, he challenged me. So this professor was a Polish professor from Israel who was the toughest, most hated professor in film school. His name was Milik Knebel. He's passed away since then. And he was the meanest guy. And he would take these films that I thought were so brilliant, and he would kill them and criticize them. One film I remember was about getting high. And only the kids that got high or smoked weed laughed, right? No one else, 38 kids didn't laugh. 2 kids in the front were laughing, right? They got the joke. And he said, this film is not good. And everyone was like, what? It was brilliant. You're a fascist. You're a communist. You asshole. You da-da-da. And his point was, what's the greatest story ever told? And I was like, I don't know, Macbeth. And I go, no, the Bible. Why? The Bible's understood by a small child or a great thinker. You can't make a movie for just you and your friends. This is a guy my professor was a documentary filmmaker. He was a cinematographer. He wasn't a commercial, popular, right, storyteller. He would do like abstract.
Sure.
And he said, you can't make a film for just you and your friends. You got to make a film that everyone is going to understand. And it clicked. That moment clicked. And what was amazing for me is that I got more, because technically you can learn everything about filmmaking in a book. You can learn how to load the film, put the lenses. Now it's digital. But storytelling is what I learned from him. And storytelling was the most important skill set that you need to get to be a filmmaker. A commercial filmmaker, if you're going to tell a story that doesn't make sense and that doesn't work, or
doesn't connect with people emotionally,
and it's right, and so that was important. But he always said, he always talked about making it personal, telling a personal story, putting yourself in that, putting your persona in that film, expressing it, how to communicate to an audience. All that stuff was so. It was what was
your senior film?
It was called Whatever Happened to Mason Reese. It was about a child star, a kid that just wanted to be loved, okay? And the night before, imagine how important this is. This is what I'm going to leave college with.
Here's your business card, your
and
card.
I prepared. I did everything. And I made deals with Cozy Soup and Burger. And I said, one day I'm going to be a filmmaker, but I need you to feed my entire crew and the cast. And I'll give you 5 times whatever my bill is. And I ate there for free during all my burgers. I would go on dates there and take, because I didn't have any money. So I would eat there for free because I said, I want a house account. Like Greek guys, like, what is a house account? They said, hold my bills until I'm successful. And the guy believed in me and he did it. And that's how I fed everybody on the crew. Anyway, long story short, I go ahead and I get a call from my professor the night before I'm supposed to go shoot. And why did he, and I thought, he called me at midnight. He said, come over my house. I said, Professor, I love you, but this is weird. First of all, I got to get up in 6 hours to shoot my film, and it's midnight, and you're asking me to your house the night before I film. What's going on here? And he says, get over here right now. I go over there, knock on the door, he answers the door, sits me down. He says, let me ask you a question. I read your script, because he has to approve for you to check the equipment out, because he sends a fax in, approved to get the equipment. He could, he controls it. He says, is your script a comedy? I said, it's a comic tragedy. Yeah, it's a tragic comedy or whatever. But it's supposed to be funny. He goes, not funny. I said, what the fuck do you know about funny? You don't even speak proper English. You speak broken English. How do you know? I got really offended. I was like stressed, tired. I was like overwhelmed. He's like, he's like, this is not funny. You want me to approve the equipment in the morning? You sit right there on my desk and you rewrite the script. I'm like, what? You're an asshole. This is why everybody hates you. You're the worst. You Polish asshole. I was like yelling at him. I was crying. I was freaking out. And he just ignores me and goes and gets a newspaper, a Polish Hebrew newspaper, and he starts reading the newspaper. And I'm like under my breath, you fucking dick. And I'm like, and I have to handwrite it. My script was 10 pages long. And I sat there from midnight till 4 a.m. rewriting the script. And at the time I was like, and I rewrote it. He's saying that. I walk up to him, I throw it at him, right? He says, I go sit in the corner. I'm sitting over there waiting. And I hear him laughing his ass off. And I'm like, kind of like, fuck him, you know. And he hands me, he goes, okay, I approve it. It's very funny. I said, it was funny before you. And I go and I shoot the script that I had rewritten. But in the back.
What was the change?
He just challenged me. I don't know why. I thought he did it because he hated me. I thought he did it because he was being mean. You know, he would pick on me in class and kids would say, are you all right? But why did he do it? Because he knew I could handle it. And afterwards he'd go, let's go get a coffee or something, you know? He was very tough. It was he was challenging me, but I resented him for it. I was really hurt by it. I thought, why would he do this to me? I never understood why. And what I want to say to you and people out there listening, just because somebody's tough on you or mean to you, or there's gonna be, whether it's on purpose or not, there will be a lesson that comes out of it.
Right.
And you'll take it with you and you'll remember it and you'll use it somehow. Maybe you won't be mean or tough to someone else that's in the same situation. Maybe you'll learn something from it. And I didn't know because I couldn't understand why he did this. And I didn't say, why, you know, maybe I did say, why are you doing this to me? Because I thought, you know, I'm going to be tired tomorrow. I'm not going to do my best. You're fucking me. Da, da, da. So I do the short film. I end up winning the NYU Film Festival. Okay, and I end up winning it. He was very proud of me. And to back it up.
That's a big deal, right? To win.
Yeah, but before that, I got an agent out of it, a William Morris. That was crazy back then, to have, you know. But before that, and this is like a multi-part story. This is not my best storytelling, but I think it's informative because it's important.
Yeah.
And film school teaches you how to make films. They don't really teach you how to get a job. And all these other people knew people. They were probably, you know, they knew everyone in Hollywood. They were going to get a job right out of film school. I knew nobody. I was from Miami Beach. I might as well have been from Bosnia. Like, I literally knew nobody in the business. No connection to any person within the business whatsoever. And I get a copy of Forbes magazine.
All right, stop. Now I want you to stop for a second to watch what he did. He immediately caught himself. He didn't have the right entry to the story he wants to tell. He backed up and created the perfect frame now. I know the story. He created a frame. So what you have to do is you always create a frame for telling a story. He set up a reason why the story matters in this context. Just now watch the story. I know the story. It's a perfect setup now. Keep going.
So I get a copy of Forbes magazine, and it says on the cover, the 40 most powerful people in Hollywood. I go back to my dorm room, and this is connected to you also, because I wanted a FedEx. I thought, okay, if I FedEx these 40 people, because I called, back in the day, you can call 555-1212. You can call the area code.
Information.
And you get information. They give you the address, and you say George Lucas, and they say Lucasfilm, and they give you the address. These guys have companies, and and I learned later that the more successful they were, the easier they were to reach, and they would respond because they had secretaries. They were very successful. They had no ego. It's the people who are like,
the middle ones.
The middle ones, they don't respond. They're assholes. They don't care. They don't want to help anybody. They're still on their climb to the top.
So true.
Very difficult climb to the top. But I thought, if I FedEx, then they'll probably, be more important, and they'll open it. Problem is, I had no money for FedEx. I knew my roommate was this guy named Leslie Zamore, and he was a star. He got a Series 7. And he says, Brett, if you get a Series 7, because you're such a good, sales guy, you can get a job at a brokerage house. And I said, if I get a job at a brokerage house, I can use the company FedEx account. Or I thought I could. I didn't know. I take my Series 7. He convinces me to take my Series 7, not to make money, and I think he was working at D.H. Blair, one of these, I don't remember the name of these companies, but I took it, and then I met some guy who had a company called Commonwealth Associates.
Michael Falk and Jimmy Taratunda.
Listen to this.
That's why I got into the business, because of Michael Falk.
This is crazy. So
Holy
Jim
shit.
Matiratanda,
They were.
I meet him and I say, hey, I got my Series 7. He goes, yeah, you don't want. He goes, come be my assistant.
He's a nice guy, Jim Matera.
I like you so much.
He's a really good guy.
I said, come be my assistant. And I come and I sit in the chairman of Commonwealth Associates office.
Him and Michael are partners.
Right. He had the office next door. But I'm, like
I know Michael since diaper. We grew up 3 years old together.
But listen to me, a desk like this, like one of these partner desks, or he had a desk there, and there was like a little desk right there. I was in his office. He loved being around me, Jim. He just loved hanging out with me. I'm a kid.
Right.
I'm in NYU film school. I'm like under 20 years old. I'm like 18, 19 years old. I don't know how old I am or whatever. And all of a sudden, I said, Jim, I got to send some. I use his FedEx to mail the 40 letters with my film to 40 of the biggest people in the industry. And while I'm working there, I'm getting 39, I send it to my dorm address, 39 rejection letters. But I didn't feel like I was rejected. I felt like I made a relationship with these people. They sent me a letter. I'm going to go to them one day and say, you wrote me a letter. Look at this. We have a connection. And then the dean of the film school, and I thought I was in trouble because remember, I wasn't returning the equipment, and I thought they were going to kick me out. Also, I didn't think I belonged there. I wasn't like a son of someone. I talked my way in. I didn't take any academic classes. I was just taking film classes. I pushed the academic classes till the last year. And I just thought like, okay, they're kicking me out. And also I was in arrears. There was a list on every floor of how much arrears. So, most kids like $26, $14 for like a lost lens cap. Mine was like $38,000. I was throwing cameras off the roof with a bungee cord. I was tying it to cars for car chases. I broke more cameras in the school than anybody. And so he says, come in and sit down. His name was Charles Milne, I think was the dean's name. Sit down. And I was a kid. He's like, why are you kissing my ass? Like, I didn't understand. He goes, you won't believe who called here looking for you. I said, who? They said, Steven Spielberg. I said,
what?
I said, let me stop you there. It's either my mother or my grandmother who want me to do well, pretending that they're Steven Spielberg's secretary and they really want me to be successful. So I'm so sorry. This is all a big joke, and I sincerely apologize. And he's like, no, take the number. And I got out of the office. I was happy I wasn't getting kicked out. I go back to my dorm room. There were rotary phones at the time. A few hours later, I called the number. Amblin Entertainment. Is Mr. Spielberg in? Who's calling? Brett Ratner. Oh, hold on. He's expecting your call. My heart is pounding out of my chest. Literally pounding out of my chest. I'm a kid. I'm like, I must be 17 or 18 years old. And
This is before you won the award?
yes. This is before I backed it up. I just backed it up. Right? Okay. Before I won the award. All of a sudden, she says, can he call you back? And I'm like, sure. Now, my mom calls me 20 times a day. And I had to hang up on her because there was no call waiting back then.
Right.
I'm expecting an important call, mine. I hang up and she comes back, what's wrong, Bradley? And I go, don't call me again. I was like, literally, I kept hanging up on my mom. I'm going to miss this call. Please stop. I couldn't say, Spielberg's trying to call me because then she'd be like, oh my God. She'd try to keep me on the phone. And talk to me. So all of a sudden, I fall asleep. I remember with my clothes on, I wake up, there's like slobber all over the phone, and the phone rings. I go, hello? Hi, this is Kathy Kennedy. Now, I didn't know, Kathy Kennedy, who runs Lucas now, was the biggest producer in Hollywood, but there was no Google or IMDb. I remember she said Kathy, but I know on the movies it would say Kathleen Kennedy. I didn't know it was the same person. She produced all the Spielberg movies, E.T., Indiana Jones, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. She's the big, and she said, hey, I'm calling on behalf of Steven. We saw your short film. We were very impressed, but we don't give money. I was asking for money, but I don't want money. I wanted the relationship. Sometimes you have to, to make a connection, you have to ask for something, but even though there's something else that you're going for, right? And I kept on the phone for 15 minutes, Jordan. I felt like I was the man. I would like walk down the hall like I'm the man. And I said basically, look, I don't remember what I said basically, but I said, I'm a young director. I'm Jewish. I'm like Steven Spielberg. I'm going to be successful one day. I think I have a chance really to make it. I don't know what I said, but I was like giving her a pitch. I gave her like I said, 2-minute pitch with the dean. I gave her the pitch, but she stayed on talking to me for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I felt good. A month goes by, I go in my mailbox, there's a check from Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg, Kathy Kennedy. I was like, I went crazy, Jordan.
How much is it for?
A few $1,000s. I blew it up and put it on my wall at Kinko's. I made like those giant photocopies. I would show it to girls to try to impress them in the hallway. Like, hey, look, Steven Spielberg. Like, but now it started getting around film school. Steven Spielberg sent Brett Ratner money. Steven Spielberg sent Brett Ratner money. I was ready to put Steven Spielberg presents a Brett Ratner film. I went crazy, right? Anyway, cut to, now I'm back in the story. I win the NYU Film Festival, and I graduate. And I go and I see my professor. Two of the most valuable lessons in my life he gave me. And what happened was, I go to him and I say, there's an opportunity. I met a producer. I met one guy in Hollywood the whole time I was at film school. Now, every director, big producer goes to film schools and talks and gives lectures. And, you know, people have access now, right? Especially with the internet. I remember the only director, it wasn't Billy Wilder. It was, who was it? It was the guy who directed West Side Story. I mean, the guy was like 100 years old. I was trying to ask all the questions. It was like, I didn't have access to anybody. And I said, I met this guy, Brian Grazer, who's like the biggest producer in Hollywood. And he called me when he heard I was graduating. He wants me to come out to LA. I think he's going to offer me a job. I mean, I was delusional. I mean, he's not going to ask me to direct something, but I think he's going to offer me a job. And he says, Brett, let me tell you something. This is my professor, the guy that, he says, under no circumstances are you to take a job from him. I said, what? What is wrong with you? You're so negative. I say, any kid in this entire school, I don't care who their parents are, would die to work for Brian Grazer. He was making, what was the fire movie that he did with Ron Howard? Backdraft. He was doing Backdraft at the time. I mean, he was making like 5 movies at the time.
Russell.
Yeah, I mean, he was huge. Him and Ron Howard. And I'm like, how can you tell me not to take that job? He goes, I'm telling you, I command you, do not take that job from him. I'm like, why? Why are you saying that? He goes, you will be fired. I said, why? He goes, you're not meant to be someone's assistant. I said, what? You're a director. So what? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to work? How do you want me to be a director? Make a film, Brett. What are you thinking? Oh, make a film. Okay. Don't work for anybody. I don't care who it is. You're going to get fired. He knew me. He knew I had ADD. He knew I wasn't focused except on telling stories. So I go see Brian. I fly out to LA. I remember in his office in Beverly Hills, the coat from Backdraft was on the door with the hat. Like it was on the back door. I come and he goes, Brett, man, I like you so much. I do. I think you're so smart. And I know you went to film school. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to give me an opportunity to direct an episode of television or something. He goes, I want to teach you the business. I'm going to train you, and you're going to become the biggest producer in Hollywood. I said, oh, well, thank you. And I want to interrupt him, but I let him talk. And he goes, you're going to be my assistant. And I just kind of like looked at him, trying to keep my smile. He says, I'm going to pay you $21,000 a year. And that was a lot of money for me, $21,000 a year. I said, wow. I said, like, I'm really appreciative. I'm really grateful. But I'm a director. He's like, okay, I'm going to pay you $22,000 a year. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm like Opie. I'm like Ron Howard. I'm like your partner. I'm a film director. Like, I'm going to pay you $23,000 a year. I think I got him up to like $29,000 because I kept telling him, no, you don't understand. I'm not an assistant. I'm a director. And also, what? My professor told me to not take the job. He said, do not take that job under any. So I went in there knowing I wasn't going to take it, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he said, okay. And it wasn't until recently when we did Tower Heist together that I noticed that he has a button under his door, under his table, that calls in the assistant. And the assistant comes and goes, Brian, your next meeting. And so it was like 7 minutes in. It was like the meeting was over. She was like, Brian, I said, okay, Brett, well, great seeing you. That was it. That was my chance. And it was gone, like right there. And as I go to the door, I think there's another button that just slams the door. And I stop it. And I know, okay, if you pitch somebody, you got to do it in one line. I said, my friend has an idea to do a black version of The Nutty Professor. He's like, oh, come on in. And I take a step and I watch what a producer did in front of my eyes. He said, who made that movie? I said, Jerry Lewis. He said, get me Jerry Lewis on the phone. As easy as that. Jerry, Brian Grazer. Oh, hey, Brian. I'd love to get the rights. You own the rights? Yeah, I own the rights to all my movies. All right, can we send over a proposal? Sure. Thanks, Brett. I got zero. And I was like, no, I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know, but it was like I gave him the idea. right? It wasn't that he was trying to stiff me. It was just like, okay, I said it was my friend's idea anyway. By the time they're making Nutty Professor 2, he's asking me to direct the movie. That's how fast my rise. So now the second story lesson that this mentor of mine gave me. I get my first movie. I'm directing music video. And I do a music video for Heavy D. And I was watching, I grew up going to the Def Comedy Jams, the comedy specials. And I would kind of scout kind of for them on this, not scout, I wasn't being paid to scout, but I would tell them who I thought was talented. I saw Chris Tucker doing stand-up. And I thought he was brilliant. And I went up to him, and he hasn't been on the show. He'd never been filmed before. I said, Chris, I'm Brett Ratner. I'm a film student, but I direct music videos. I'd love you to be in my music videos. How much you gonna pay me? I said, I got $500. He goes, man, I need $1,000. I can't do it without $1,000. I go, I only have $500, but you could keep the wardrobe. He goes, all right, I'll do it. I love Heavy D. He comes and does the video. The video is the biggest video on MTV. Okay, huge. It got me like 5. If I would do a good video, do a good job, a good film, it would get me more work, right? You do good.
It's a good social media thing. Get you like 10 million views went viral.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I start getting paid. I start making money. I really wasn't making money doing music videos. I start really making money. And 3 months later, and it's a valuable lesson, I think, for everybody out there, I wrote a check for the other $500 and I mailed it to Chris. He never called me and thanked me, but back in the day, you would get your checks in the mail returned, and it said $500 back. And he must have got it when he really needed it. He goes and does Friday. He gets paid $15,000 to star in Friday. Then he does Dead Presidents. He got $25,000 with the Hughes brothers. And then New Line Cinema, Mike DeLuca, who ran the studio at the time, young head of the studio, buys a script called Money Talks for Chris Tucker to star in and Charlie Sheen. The director, they hired this big commercial director, I don't remember his name, and he goes in to complain to the head of the studio, to Mike DeLuca, that Chris Tucker won't pay attention and listen to him, that he wants to improvise. He doesn't want to say the words on the page. Now, the head of this, Mike DeLuca, says to him,
I bought the thing for the guy.
but if the actor is not listening to you, then you have no right being the director. So you're fired. Because if the actor and director don't work together, that's not going to work, right? And he wants to fire him. He goes, let's go get another black guy to just play the part. He goes, you're fired. Calls in Chris Tucker. This is a week before the movie starts. And he says, Chris, what are we going to do? I just fired the guy. He goes, yeah, man, he wasn't good. He wasn't listening to me. He didn't want to, Chris, they bought it for him, right? And they go, well, what are we going to do? Every week that we don't film, we're going to lose $1 million. He goes, I remember this cool white boy, Brett Ratner. He never forgot me. He must have got that check when he really needed it. And I'm not saying you have to send a check as gratitude to somebody.
I get it.
But you send him a note. You write him, you thank the person who helped you get to where you wanted to go.
Right.
Showing that gratitude and appreciation came back to me 100 million times over. Me sending him that $500. He never forgot me. He brought me in. They hired me. I directed my first movie, and that was with Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen, Money Talks, which I think is funnier than Rush Hour. And then so I'm on the set of, this is the end of it. I'm on the set of Money Talks, okay? I only had a week to prep the movie. You usually have 12 weeks minimum to prep a movie. So I can only prep the scene for that week. And then I had on the weekends work to prep the next. So I said, okay, how am I going to do this? Because the movie has to make sense. I know the script makes sense. But if I treat each scene like a mini movie and have a beginning, middle, and end, because usually if you have time, you could build in transitions. You know, you could really sew the movie together in a way that is really seamless. Because how many times you've seen a movie where you feel like you're watching two different movies?
Yeah.
Constantly, right? But
Traffic.
Tone is everything. Wolf of Wall Street is a perfect film because tone-wise, from the first frame to the end, you're watching the same movie.
Right.
Marty's a master, and he knows how to do that. And that's where a film that doesn't work is when the tone is off. So I said, how do I keep the tone consistent? And this is how I did it. First day of shooting. Now, now they were firing directors halfway through the movie, but you know, the DGA is less lenient. But back then, it was very hard to fire a director off a movie. Very difficult, except in the first week. If the studio saw your dailies, didn't like, especially first-time director, saw your dailies, didn't like the work, they could just fire you. So the first week was crucial. Imagine, I'm on my first movie set. I'm 26 years old, okay? I'm on my first movie set. There's 500 people on set, 200 crew, 300 extras, helicopters. It was at the LA Coliseum. It was a split day. It was a night. We only had like 8 hours of darkness. Okay, so we were prepping for half the day, rigging it, putting the equipment, bringing everything in. And my first shot was going to start when it got dark until sunrise. And half an hour before we're about to shoot, my AD, who's twice my age, comes to me. This guy, Jamie, great guy, says, we have a problem. What? Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen want to talk to you. So why is that a problem? He goes, well, they don't want to come here. I told them that you're getting ready for the shot in 30 minutes. They want you to go to their trailer. I'm like, oh, shit. I have to get in a car, drive to the trailer. You know, it's like a whole mishigas. It was like a difficult thing to get there, and I had to get back in time in 30 minutes to do the first shot with everybody hair and ready. Oh, and they hadn't been in hair and makeup yet because they had to. So we're already running behind on the first day. So it's my responsibility, right? So I get to the trailer, I knock on the door. They let me in. They're sitting there. They don't look happy. They say, we got a problem. I said, what? And you won't believe what they say to me. They go, this scene isn't funny. And at that moment,
Film school.
I go back to when my professor tells me, this was not funny. And I had a meltdown. I was like, fuck you. You're the worst professor. How can you do this to me? I got to shoot in 6 hours. And I literally I got chills. I was like, oh my God, this was what the lesson was. He prepared me for this moment. Now, my instinct was to be like, shit, we have a problem. I got to go get the producer. And, you know, they got to force you to come out, even if it's not funny. We just got to shoot it. Because I can improvise. They're like, this isn't working. And if I did that, they would have lost respect for me and the whole movie would have been a disaster. But you know what I said? All right, hold on. They go, what are you doing? I go, hold on. I locked the door so nobody can come in. I get the script, get a pen. I go, let's go. Read the scene. We spent the next 2 hours rewriting the scene every 10 minutes. Guys, what's going on in here? We're going to have to call this. You guys got to come out of the trailer. This is getting serious. It was like a mutiny. The first 2 hours, the director and the 2 stars will not come out of the trailer on the first day of my first movie. We finished the scene. It was funny as shit. We get out. They're like, what the fuck is going on? I go, let's just go. Let's go. I did the scene. I made my night. I made the schedule. Everyone got nervous for a second. I said, guys, the scene wasn't working. We had to work on it. They understood. But it was like, and from that moment on, Chris and Charlie knew I had their back. Right. Gave props, respect. And that's what I was talking about. These lessons. This professor, I thought he was picking on me. I thought he hated me. I thought he was like, why are you telling me to turn down this fucking... If I wouldn't have turned down the job, I would have probably become a director, but my path would have been... Right. Maybe I would have became a producer. Right. Because I got seduced by seeing Brian becoming a producer. But I was like, no, I stayed on my path. I didn't let anything distract me. But without that mentor putting those little nuggets in my ear, giving me that advice, right? Not every choice matters, right? And that's what Family Man was about, really, choices. That's why I wanted to make that movie.
My favorite movies, by the way.
But I wanted
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but it was because I'm lucky to have a mentor. That's why I get a mentor, because a mentor has been through it, lived through it. They have the experiences that can help you and guide you, and they made the mistakes. So maybe, right? They don't have to spell it out for you, but these little things. And I literally thought he was just abusing me. I was sad about it. I was hurt about it. And when that came back to me, when they said to me those words, that exact words that he said, this isn't funny.
Just all, right? Came back.
And I just knew I got to get my body. Instead of reacting the way I did when I was a child and have a tantrum, but I made it through. I did it and I shot my film and I won the festival. I'm going to handle this differently. I'm going to that's what they want to do. Let's sit down and fix it right here and right now. And that's what I did. So at the end of this, what I'll say to you is, you know, how do you develop your skills as a storyteller? Storytelling is, you can have the gift of gab. You can be a great talker. You can have, that's something that is natural. You can have charisma naturally, which you have. You can have intelligence. You can express that. But how do you tell stories? By watching stories, by listening to stories, by asking people to tell. I always ask these older, my professor, Rob Evans, tell me a story about this. Tell me, I was curious. Being curious is crucial, I think.
Have you ever written a book?
No, I'd like to.
You have to, honestly.
I think I'm.
You have to.
Yeah.
I honestly think you should.
I don't know how you did it because I don't have the. I mean, to sit and do it, it's like I'm
You
sure.
know
It took,
what?
how long did it take you to write your
A
book?
year.
Yeah.
It's a year. It took.
But you had a great editor, right? Because I'm sure. How much longer was the book?
It was 1,300 pages.
And how long is it?
528. Yeah. But they don't write for you; they'll edit down. But
They'll
you,
edit.
You need to
but
write.
did you
a
take
book.
stuff that you didn't make it in the book into your other books? Did you use it?
I tried that,
Yeah.
but it's not. Some of the stuff got cut. So I tried to use some stuff, but
Yeah.
it's weird when writing's. You've written scripts though, right?
Yeah. No, I haven't written script.
But
Well,
you-
I wrote
well,
one.
you worked on scripts.
I rewrite scripts. I work on it with the writers. But the other thing I was going to say is the importance is having a mentor. I don't know if you had a mentor.
I've had mentors.
But even you said
Tom
Wolfe
was my mentor.
No,
for
you said the
writing.
guy who worked with Matera Tonda.
Well, no, yeah, so I got into Wall Street because I grew up with Matera Tunda's partner, Michael Falk.
Oh my God.
When I went bankrupt, I was 22 from my first business venture, the meat and seafood business, and I lose everything. And I go down to the local park. We all play ball in Bayside, Queens, and I hear this story about this kid we grew up with, Michael Falk, who was not a sharp kid growing up.
No.
He was like a weird kind of kid, and they say, "Oh, he's making $1 million a year on Wall Street." I'm like, get the fuck! Like, no, it seemed like an
Can you believe I was
inconceivably
his partner's assistant?
large amount of $1 million
Such a
a year
story.
back in 1986,
Wow.
right? And then like a week later, I'm in the park and like he pulls up in his red Ferrari with a gorgeous blonde. I'm like, I want the Ferrari, I want the blonde, I want the freaking car. And I'm like, Michael, what do you think? He goes, I'm a stockbroker. He goes, I made $1 million. Brokers always tell you what they made, right? I made $1 million too last year. Next year I'll make $2 million. And I said to myself, what I'm sure you've said to yourself at one point in your life, many of you have. I said, if this guy can make $1 million, I'll make fucking 10.
Yeah.
That's why I went down to Wall Street
Wow.
for the Michael Falk.
What a story.
I know. So it comes from, buddy. I could listen to you all day, but we're way over the time. You're the best. I love you. Thank you, guys. Brett Ratner. You need to spend a year writing a book.
I'm gonna.
All right,
do it,
guys.
Love
This is
you,
the
Joy.
new Wolf's Den style here, where the guest actually talks about a topic that I started framing. So I loved it. It was a great experiment, and I will see you next week again on the new Wolf's Den. Take care.